This next hour, we want to focus on the diaspora, Kenya's County 48, when it comes to the elections. We know there are very many Kenyans who are out there. Kenya's largest foreign exchange earner is Kenyans living abroad and working abroad, and we want to have a conversation about that. The Cabinet Secretary nominee for Foreign Affairs and Diaspora, Dr. Alfred Mutua, will be before Parliament today. So we want to speak about that issue. We have a guest in the studio. One will be joining us from Washington, D.C., USA via video link. Before we welcome them, City, the proverb from the diaspora.
No. This one is actually from the country of Somalia.
So that's diaspora.
Who's diaspora exactly?
No, diaspora there has to be an ocean you cross.
Yes, and I understand all that, but you don't cross any of it. It's just next door. You can get by land. No sea journey required.
So it's not diaspora.
But
you can see over there in Somalia.
Okay. Since Eric needs to be mollified, yes, Eric, let me mention a proverb from the diaspora of Somalia. Okay? Are we good?
Yes.
Thank you so much. The locust flew away, but it left hardships.
The locust flew away, but it left hardships.
And then, where did the locust fly to?
Kenya.
So where did the hardship go to?
Kenya.
Okay.
Then it left Kenya and went to South Sudan.
Hey, eureka moment. So even as it flies away, it takes hardship with it where it's going. It not just leaves it behind, but it goes with it as well.
Which means locusts have an abundance of hardships.
It would seem there's some bothersome creatures.
Yes. Leave some here, carry some away, take some others elsewhere.
Locust is equals hardship.
Is equals a lot of hardships, exported hardships. In fact, the real diaspora is actually the locust.
It's a moving diaspora. Okay.
All right. Victoria Nkatha is a diaspora youth leader from Denmark. She's with us in the studio. And we are joined by a video link by Danson Mukile. Danson is an IT expert and a policy strategist. He's in Washington, D.C., USA. Good morning, Victoria.
Good morning. How are you?
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Make yourself comfortable.
We'll try to. This is our legend sitting here, so I'll try to.
Yeah. That proverb. When City said it, you're like, oh. It's like you connected immediately.
Well, you can look at it in two ways. One, that living for better. The other one, as you stated, carrying hardships wherever you're going. But I also think the type of insect it is matters a lot. So with a locust, I definitely think that carries hardship wherever it goes. However, if it was a bee, then maybe we would look at that proverb in a very different way. Yes.
But you do understand that when we talk about proverbs, they're from the human perspective.
Absolutely.
If we ask the locust, would we say the locust is deliberately spreading hardship?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So it can be subconsciously. And yes.
I think a locust knows what it's doing.
Do you hear what you just heard? A locust is a subconscious, eh?
However, don't you think that with it knowing that it's a locust, it has its purpose, and that is to spread the hardship. So if I know that I'm this type of person, therefore I know my purpose is to do certain things, and I am well within my purpose to do what I've been created to do.
You're making this insect sound motivational. The insect at the end of the day is looking to stay alive.
Exactly, true.
It's only eating.
True.
It's just feeding and laying its eggs.
When it's finished, it lays its eggs, it moves on to the next patch of green.
Anyway, we'll talk about more locusts. Danson, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Latif. How are you?
Very well, thanks. It's good to have you on the show again. The last time we were talking was before the election, and we were talking about what the main campaigns were saying about diaspora affairs. Of course, now we know we have a new administration in place. Today, it's the Kenya Kwanza promise for the diaspora, and how you in the diaspora and the rest of us who are here in Kenya are going to keep it accountable for diaspora promises. So let me just start with you, Victoria, because you were not here the last time. What, from your perspective, are the promises that Kenya Kwanza has made with regards to diaspora affairs?
I think one of the promises that touches me most is the social welfare of the Kenyans in the diaspora. I think that's one of the biggest concerns that we currently have, especially looking at the current situation, such as the ones in Saudi and in other different countries. I know that the Saudi one is very, out in the open, but there are a lot of concerns regarding the welfare of people out in the diaspora, and I think that is what resonates most with me, actually. So that's one, be able to create better social welfare for the diasporans, be able to implement situations and policies that will be able to make sure that we protect the people out there. Another one has been the ability to streamline the remittances, whereas we know very well that Kenyans have a lot of money remitting back to Kenya, and therefore in what ways and what institutions can we be able to implement such that these remittances are used to the betterment of the country. Another one that really resonates with me is the services, the Kenya services that are provided out abroad through our embassies and so on and so forth. We have been promised that this will be made better. It will be made more easy and more accessible to us, because this is also a really huge concern for us out there. Yes.
I'm going to read what the Kenya Kwanza manifesto says about the diaspora, the Kenya Kwanza commitment on diaspora affairs. Number one, create a ministry for diaspora affairs. Have we done that?
Yeah. Well, we can definitely have a conversation about that. But yes, they definitely have.
Improve delivery of government services through decentralizing services and functions of Kenyan missions abroad. There's establishment of a diaspora forum, which will review progress of national government services to the diaspora. Establish new and enhanced trade and investment channels in order to promote further local investment by Kenyans living in the diaspora. Facilitate accreditation and endorsement of Kenya's qualifications and skills with those of foreign countries. Facilitate the portability of knowledge, skills, innovation, and technical resources available in the diaspora. Establish a social welfare system, like you've said, Victoria, for Kenyans living in the diaspora. Engaging our sportsmen and women and other eminent Kenyans to promote patriotism and social cohesion in Kenya and globally. And finally, to promote the Kenyan brand and appoint brand ambassadors who will market Kenyan services and products and equally increase the global market share of these services and products. This is what the Kenya Kwanza has made as a promise on what they want to do with regards to diaspora affairs. Now, Victoria, you've told us what you consider the most important in your order of hierarchy.
Yes.
Danson, what do you consider as the most important, things that Kenya Kwanza should focus on? Like immediately, Dr. Alpha Mutua is sworn in as a cabinet secretary. What should he start doing?
Thank you, Latif. I think I'll agree with Victoria. The first priority right now is sorting out the issue with the Gulf. The Middle East issue, it has been there for some time. People have been dying, and nothing has been done. There's been just conversation, the agency saying this, the government saying this, and even senior officials, including the PS, has also done some quite remarkable lamentations about the same. And personally, I'm not happy about it. So the first task I'll ask the CS to do is to sort out the diaspora issue in the Gulf. And we have the solution, and it's in the policy. All we just need to be done is the parliament to change or to have a more robust and more protective BLA, that is bilateral labor agreement with the Gulf countries, so that it will strengthen. If people have been saying we can ban the agencies, I don't agree that they should be banned, but there is a way that it can be instituted by the government, and they'll just form into in line. Because once you say that you are going to ban it, it will create a lot of confusion, and even some people because you can't stop people from going to Saudi. There's no way you can go to the airport and say, you are not boarding. They will use other means to go. So you just need to have a legislation passed immediately, and the president is ready to sign it, and I'm so happy that he's aware of the issue that is going on there and is very much concerned. So that should be the first thing that I'm asking the CS to take action on from my own.
Okay, so we oftentimes talk about what we would like to see.
Yes.
But then in terms of how we would essentially see these things entrenched, we know already that there were some promises. We know that there were some, plans for certain things to be done in a certain way. Danson, how do you exactly see this playing out? What do you think ought to be done? For example, if we're looking at this Saudi issue, because it's not something that just popped up into it has been there for some time. It's been there for years. It's about time somebody actually did something substantive about it. How do you think this should be handled? We know how other countries handle their diaspora issues. We know policies, for example, that come out of the Philippines, and they're very strict, and they say, look, our people working in different parts of the world, so long as they're representing our country, this is how they're going to be handled. And it seems to work really well. What should happen? And we can use Saudi Arabia as an example. Whichever other countries Kenyans operate in, what should it look like?
So, Philippines is a good example. And for what has been lacking, I'll say two things. There has been deliberate move by some government officials to become cartels in this whole mess of Saudi. And it is well known they will, even if the people in Saudi, the Kenyans working there, raise the concerns, they'll just ignore them. But right now, we have a new sheriff in town. That's the president, and you have seen that he's quite actionable person. And having seen him working, I'm very positive that it's going to be fixed, because it has been quite a concern. And I'm just looking forward that the president will take action immediately, but we needed to have our CS in office first. Then the policy and the legislation that you are proposing is already, some people have been working on it already, and we are hoping that will be the first. Because when you go there, you just go to the agencies and tell them do this without something firm behind it. It requires the law. So the law should be the first thing. Once the law is in place and the law dictates, I think we reduce this thing tremendously, because they'll know we are sick. But it has been just social media, having just casual conversation, but nobody has been taking action. And I'm very positive that the president, I'm very sure that he's very aware of it, and I'm happy that he's going to take action very soon. And that's what I'm expecting the CS to have it on his number one issue for the diaspora.
The issue of the diaspora is a continuing conversation, but apart from the political promises around it, set up this, do the other, those of you who are in the diaspora, if I were to ask you, because I'm sure you've organized yourselves into groups, you've organized yourselves into forums, what exactly would you like to see the government do to ensure that you participate in your country of origin as much as you'd like to, and that whatever it is that you're doing is of beneficial in the way that you intend it to be?
I can quickly go on
yes,
that one.
Please.
Okay, go on.
After him, yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so from my end, I would say for the first time since 1963, for almost 60 years, diaspora has just been used in like a pawn, just being used in any form just for finances. But this year, or this electioneering period, things changed. And after having the conversation, I'll be very specific because I participated in it with the president, we have seen changes. We have now a State Department for Diaspora Affairs. What was lacking actually for the diaspora, their issues being sorted, was the link between the diaspora and the government. We didn't have a center, an epicenter where we can channel our issues. It was just a remote way. If you have connections, if you know someone, you can push through. So things were not flowing so well. Right now, we have a State Department, which is going to have a permanent principal secretary with the secretariat and all the legal liaison and also the parliamentary liaison. So it's going to be more streamlined. And I will surprise you. We have so many thousands of organizations in the diaspora. But guess what? They are so divided. We are so divided in the diaspora just because we haven't been having a channel we can push our issues. We have every organization comes up. Maybe they'll be having a good rapport with a CS or a PS, or a certain government official. They push through their issue. Then when that official exits the office, then the organization goes down. Another one comes up. So right now, I am so happy that we have a way that we're going to channel. And I'm even asking all the diaspora organizations that it is the highest time we come together. The politics or the differences we have in the diaspora, they should now end so that we come together and push our agenda. Because you realize we do infight in the diaspora. There's a lot of organizational infight, individual infight, pushing their own agenda. So this department is going actually now to streamline us. And, the president said, nitawapanga hivi, nitaweka mahali fulani mjipange. So now that ametupanga, it's now us as in the diaspora to come together with many organizations that are in it, and then we focus on the State Department. Who knows? Because now we have the department. In the future, we may end up having a full-fledged ministry for our own. So it's just us now organizing ourselves. Yeah.
Yes, I think he said practically what I wanted to say. Also, another thing is that in the beginning, what we wanted was primarily recognition and being heard, and finding this channel where we were gonna be able to express our concerns, our problems, and so on and so forth. Now we're seeing growth in terms of we have somebody who listens to us. Mr. President was very, very grounded in listening to our issues, giving us the opportunity to speak. We even had the Diaspora Summit in December. Now, when you're seeing such progress happen, what we now want to be able to see is these promises being fulfilled, and that's the steps that we're currently seeing. So in to answer the question more directly, what we currently want is to be able to see these promises fulfilled. As we have seen the others fulfilled, he promised to listen. He came through every meeting we had. He sat down with us, listening to our concerns, implementing our concerns in the manifesto. And now the next steps forward is to be able to see the action, and which I believe truly in my heart of hearts that this is going to happen.
So sometimes, we ask the question, how would you like to see this play out? What would you like to see? Maybe we can take a step back and say, then, what are the issues? Because I think that and we've asked this question before, pre-election, during the campaign. So what are the issues that maybe then ought to be addressed? Look, when it comes to the economy, for example, and the contribution that diaspora is making to that is monumental. It cannot be ignored, right? No. Oftentimes we think, all right, Kenyans leaving the country, so whatever, they've gone. They've gone to do work, do whatever, and then it seems as though a certain part of that, of your mind forgets that those people are there and have left the country to find work or to go to school. Then we look at these remittances and you say, oh, come on, a major part of the economy being upheld by the people. So what are the issues then that ought to be addressed? Kenyans still want to be part of, Kenyans outside still want to be part of building the country, want to be recognized. So what is the issue? Then that probably then can help to how you want to see these things then being actualized.
I think that's a very good question. And the thing is that, number one, what I would want to see is diasporans taking more part in legislative matters, being able to have an opportunity to sit down and make decisions as well. That's number one. How I would see the promises play out, or rather in my little head, what I would like to see, the issues as you asked. Number one, the concerns about Kenyans and the mistreatment of Kenyans. I'd like to see that completely disappear. Not disappear in the sense that like what we currently are having, as Danson said, we're having a situation where we're having leaders even demean us in the foreign countries. And when we start looking at our people and bringing meaning to our people, considering the fact that we contribute a lot to the economy, I think first and foremost, being able to protect our people is number one priority. I'd like to see people in the diaspora being able to, number one, work and be respected out in the diaspora. Number two, aside from working, the brains that we actually have, as we stated in the manifesto, where you have the ability to access proper education, proper job opportunities. This is a problem because some of our degrees are even not being considered out there. These are the things that we need to have sorted. What are the policies that we need to be able to create? And these are the things that we need to really, really dig deep in. Why are our papers not being accepted abroad? Why do people have to still go abroad and have to start educating themselves
From the
again?
beginning.
Exactly. When they already have their papers from abroad. These are some of the concerns of which I would want to see change. Considering the fact that we're contributing back to the economy, we definitely need to be also have an opportunity to do better out there. Because the better we do, the better we're able to also contribute, and the better we have a seat at the table as well. Yeah.
It's 29 minutes after 8. I'd like us to take a break at this point. Victoria Nkatha is from the diaspora. She's a diaspora youth leader in Denmark. She works there as business development executive.
Yes.
And Danson Mukile is in Washington, D.C. He's an IT expert, policy analyst. We're talking about diaspora affairs, what the Kenya Kwanza promises on the diaspora affairs have been, and how to hold them accountable for these promises. We know that the president has established a State Department for Diaspora Affairs, and it will be headed by the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and Diaspora. The nominee is Dr. Alpha Mutua. He's before Parliament today. He will be elected. He will pass. He will be sworn in. So what we expect to see from Dr. Alpha Mutua going forward, that's what we're discussing.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
So the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs has two state departments. One is the State Department for Foreign Relations, and the other one is the State Department for Diaspora Affairs. The functions of that State Department, which means this is basically elevating the issues of diaspora. There's going to be a PS in charge of diaspora. There are going to be desks and directorates that deal with diaspora issues. The functions: one, promotion of continuous dialogue with Kenyans abroad, championing the protection of Kenya's diaspora rights and welfare, support Kenyans in the diaspora in harnessing more opportunities for employment and enterprise development, develop incentive framework for diaspora remittances, harnessing diaspora savings, facilitating FDI and technology transfers, and mainstreaming the Kenyan diaspora into the national development process. City.
Grand plans. Really grand plans.
Big functions.
Huge functions, yes. You see, when you consider that the remittances we get from the diaspora are our biggest foreign exchange earner, not one of, it is the. Yes, I understand the structures that we've spoken of, but will the funding of this particular department or ministry, will it be commensurate with the contribution that the diaspora is making, so that it isn't a hit and miss and you're wondering what happened, where has this happened, that it'll be seamless? Because that level of contribution requires a meeting of thinking, a meeting of purpose, to ensure that it doesn't just maintain its current tempo, but that it is enhanced and everything that could possibly be worked out from it is actually worked out.
I think I'm going to pass that one on to Danson. He's more our economists and strategists.
And Danson,
so
you've sat in those meetings, like you said.
Exactly.
You've sat in the meetings with the president before. You've obviously raised these questions.
Exactly.
When he says, I'm going to elevate, is it about resourcing? Is it about having a diaspora person in every mission abroad? What does it mean?
Yes. So the diaspora is very dynamic, and what is going to happen is that the emphasis for the start, the embassies are going to have a secretariat for diaspora affairs in each embassy. We're going to have a person tackling the diaspora issues in our embassy. We're going to have a specific office, like you say, a branch in all our missions abroad. And this person, they'll be able now be like being a link between us in the diaspora and the ministry. So they'll be helping us on liaison. On the funding, I think we right now we are not asking how much you want to be spent in the department, but we want to see how much we can contribute to the nation using this department. Because for us, as long as there's facilitation, there's a chain. I think most people in the diaspora, and I'll talk maybe in the U.S., they are very sustainable. They literally just need some service. For example, I can give an example about remittances. Right now, Africa, it is the only continent in the whole world that has the highest charging rate on the diaspora remittances, with 7.3%. Other countries, like you look at Asia, they have almost 4% or 3% charges. So if the government can reduce these charging fees, and we are asking even waiver it, I'm very sure the remittances will double. Because when you look at the financing system of developing countries, from the official, they call it order, that was the Official Development Association, that was started in 1954. Then now afterwards we came to FDI, that you can see even now we have it as a function there. Now we have the diaspora remittances. And you realize that the diaspora remittances have superseded all of them. You cannot compare right now the FDI with the remittances. So there's a lot that the government can do to make sure that they can harness these remittances from the diaspora to develop our country. And many people will be asking me, oh, Danson, maybe you send your money to your family members, or we know we don't even feel it. And I'll tell you that you don't have, you look at how that small impact in that small community or in that small family, it is going to have, it is now the replication of how the whole nation, is going to feel. So it is the small impact you can give to the family or to an individual. For example, I've been supporting students who are in high school or who are in school. That impact I'm supporting those students is being translated to promote the education system in the country. Mm-hmm. So as an individual, I'm doing that. How about 1 million people doing the same thing? Mm-hmm. So the government just needs to give us the service that we require to facilitate us do more. We can do more. And when you look at the remittances, like if you look at right now, when you go to the CBK website and you look at the transactions, they realize we are 300-something million. In July, when your students were going to school, it was like the highest. You can easily track how we normally send in money during some situations. During COVID, the diaspora stabilized our currency. So we need actually right now to focus on more around the remittances, build products around it, create incentives around it. And with the PS and the CS that we are going to, we are waiting for them to be sworn in, I'm sure we're going to do a lot about that.
I'd like to ask this question with reference to what you've just said. You had issues you had wished the government to put into practice. There are things you wanted the government to do. Now, organized as you are in the diaspora, how are you going to ensure that the government actually does the things that you had agreed they would do? I am asking this question because if you just focus on remittances and they are received, what guarantees do you have that the things you ask for instance, the lowering of the rates for the remittances, other benefits that you will get as a result of the contribution that you're making? Because whether you know it or not, with those huge remittances, you're probably one of the biggest lenders that the country actually has, because those monies they don't just go to your relatives directly. They pass through a system before they get to your relatives wherever they are. And it's what helps the country retain the physical position that it has, because it is money that the country can count on. Question again, how are you going to ensure through the system that you have, the government actually fulfills the promises that were agreed upon by you and them?
So right now in the diaspora, we are forming ourselves in different organizations and developing leadership over the same. So these leaders we are choosing in the diaspora, not political per se, but with the organizations, we are giving them instructions to make sure that they check on the government and make sure that the promises that are given to the diaspora have been fulfilled. So we are organizing ourselves in different groups, in different organizations across the world. And, it is very dynamic. I may not be able to know what Kenyans in Peru are doing right now. But what I know from United States, we are organizing in different organizations. And out of that, because, this is a new thing that has happened to us. We never used to have this one before. So after the president was sworn in, we have been working around, developing structures here and there. And we are very sure that once we register, we have the leadership in place in the diaspora in different organizations, they'll be checking the government. And also we have leaders. We have leaders in the National Assembly who will be looking at checking on the parliament, on the government, also the executive. So we'll also be talking to the leaders, the MPs and the senators in the parliament to check the executive on the promises of the diaspora on our behalf. So it's going to be a robust way, but we want to be part of the conversation as we also check on them.
I think also one of the other things to note is that one of the things that has been promised, or rather has been stated, that is a function of the State Department, is to provide incentives or develop incentives for the diaspora remittances in collaboration with the working groups that currently are being developed in the diaspora. I do believe that accountability will be held, as he stated, with the leaders, but also with the working groups that are helping to develop these policies and incentives in different aspects of the diaspora will definitely help us be able to hold the government accountable. That's one of the things that we really, really want to be able to do. Hold them accountable, but also involve our people so that we can be able to work together. And that is the essence of the leaders, the working groups, and also the promises that have been made. Yeah.
One of the big portfolios also that is looked at for Kenyans in the diaspora is that of investments. And to say that looking back into the country and saying that, can you then have, a nest egg of sorts that you will then either use for future commercial value or at least somewhere that you will come back to live in, really, when that is. How do you think, or are there ways in which it is hoped that these investments then will be protected? I mean, we're rife with stories about how, you have sent money home for a house to be built, and then you come back and find a collection of stones, right? I mean, everybody has a story. What do you feel? I think this is for both of you as well. Is there some kind of protection? Is this among one of the things that the hope is there for it to be protected, for those investments to be protected?
Absolutely. That is actually a conversation we were having with Danson. Because we're with the youth, we want to be able to have situations where we can invest back home, because the end goal for most of the people is to be able to better the lives of others, not only for other people, but also if I was to decide that I want to come back home, I want to be able to come back home in an environment where I know that I have put in energy to create. Because when I'm going out there, I'm going to seek quote unquote greener pastures, right? And when I come back, I want to come back in my comfort. Therefore, with us, we have worked towards being able to secure kitties, number one. Number two, groups in which, for instance, building, we have other organizations that are also working on that, and having these dialogues with leaders back home to be able to secure the investments of the diaspora people. So definitely there is hope for that, and it's being worked on by the people to the government as well, and vice versa. So that's definitely something that is huge. And also the other aspect is also the brain gain and brain drain as well. We also want to look at where young people can also bring back the levels of education and how's it called, exposure and knowledge that they gain out there.
Expertise and skills.
Exactly, that is also what we need out here, because we still are a developing country. And you send somebody like Danson out to work with, I don't know, Microsoft or whatnot in Washington. We also want that expertise back so that he can be able to improve the IT world and the IT industry in Kenya, so that we also can develop at a fast rate. It's not only about sending people, but also bringing them back. But what is the assurance that we can be able to bring them back in environments that are favorable for them as well, and also create environments for people here, so that we don't have to have a situation where people are running away as well. These are also conversations that we are having.
Do you think Dr. Mutua should also establish frameworks for identifying opportunities for Kenyans abroad, for Kenyans in Kenya to find opportunities abroad, so that then we continue having, more Kenyans who are willing and guiding opportunities abroad, facilitating their easy movement from Kenya to other countries where they can live and work, knowing that at some point they will be coming back, or even when they're there, they'll be sending in the remittances. Just basically looking at, all right, so we've got a resource here, and this is a human resource in the country. We don't have as many opportunities in this country. Should there be focus by Dr. Alpha Mutua to make sure that he will establish and look for those opportunities for Kenyans to go abroad?
Absolutely. I do believe that this would also mitigate the issues of agencies misusing people, and also the situations where people go and they are not in the best of situations abroad. If Dr. Alfred is able to help young people, not only young people, but generally people be able to find options and opportunities, and be able to look and have tracking system of how people are doing out there, it would also help solve a lot of other social issues. So being able to look for opportunities, help the government partner with other governments, so that we also facilitate for our people, because it's a situation. We have countries such as Canada that are looking for people to work right now. Let's say, for instance, we worked together with the government and we sent nurses or IT experts and so on and so forth. That would be a very much better situation than having our young girls be sent to Saudi Arabia and be mistreated, right? Yep. We have more opportunities, more viable opportunities, more feasible opportunities. And then now you send somebody to go do nursing, you get more money back, or they invest back, and then they come back home. I think that's the optimal solution, to be honest, to also mitigate all other concerns of mistreatment, death, killings, and so on and so forth. It would definitely be a good solution.
What would it take to get Kenyans in the diaspora better organized to want to participate in governance? I'm talking about, look at the number of Kenyans who were registered as voters in the diaspora, 10,444 in this election, versus a population that's more than 1 million strong. Yeah. And all those, we're talking about adult population that's more than 1 million strong. That tells you that even though they are participating in sending money and supporting people back home, they are not as engaged in governance. What would it take to get more and more Kenyans out there engaged?
One of the things that I heard repetitively when I was soliciting for people to come in, get registered for voting, and so on and so forth, was people have given up on the governance of Kenya because they feel that they have gone and they've been forgotten. So why should they register to vote? Why should they take that initiative? Why should they participate? If, for instance, somebody has been sent out there, services are very poor. Let's start from there. You cannot access proper Kenyan services. And right now is when we are having conversations to be able to push that forward. If you have a population that has given up hope. That is where the problem is at. And therefore, when we're pushing, young people are coming together and other people are coming together to be able to push for these promises to be accomplished. It's also for the greater population, because a lot of people have constantly gone to try and vote, have constantly tried to have a say, but they've not been given that platform. And with that, feeling that you're not heard is probably one of the worst things that you can do to a citizen as a government. That people feel that, yes, I am Kenyan, but I'm not heard. I'm suffering out here. I cannot access the embassy. I cannot talk to this person. I cannot do this and that. Those are the issues where Kenyans feel, wachekai, you know, I don't need it. I am okay here. And if I am to see the embassy, it is only for my passport renewal, and that's it. That's it. I don't want to do anything else because they are not going to listen. And I think that's where we're looking at the hope factor, renewing hope through accountability. Fulfillment of promises is one of the steps that will be able to make individuals even come out later on, vie for seats, and also come out and vote in the next electioneering period. And I think that's very, very important. If we can be able to renew that hope, we will see a huge increase.
Can I offer an unsolicited perspective?
Yes, please.
The interest that you speak of will not be granted to you. It is something that, and don't bank on goodwill. Goodwill by politicians is often spoken of.
Of course.
If you want the things that you say done, given the might that you have, and given the willingness of this particular government to do something about it, at the very start is when you push your agenda and you push it hard. And you have clarity as to what you want and how you want it. Because we don't live in the diaspora, we live here. And everything you tell us just forms part of the stories we hear. We don't go through what you go through. So we can't know what you need and how you need it. The clarity with which you need to present your case and the energy with which you need to push it must be of paramount interest, because the vast contribution that the diaspora makes in terms of remittances will be taken for granted if you don't. And lip service will be paid to what you require. And when we meet again, we'll be having this conversation because nothing will have changed. So you need to organize yourselves a lot more than you've organized yourself. And you need to push your agenda far more than you've pushed it if you hope to see the changes that you're talking about. End of the unsolicited perspective.
Thank you.
Danson, what's your view on that?
I agree. And what I can just say, we need to flip. Just the same way as this. We need to flip because it has been, we wait for the government to reach on to us and say, I want to do this for you. Right now, it's supposed to be the vice versa. We are supposed to engage them and say, this is what needs to be done, and you have to do it. When it comes to the election, to the registration of voters, we shouldn't wait even for IEBC to communicate to us and, before we start engaging people. It should be the other way around. We should tell IEBC that we have already planned this, these are structures in place, and all you just need for the government is just facilitation. Actually, what we are asking is facilitation. I come with this organization, I tell me as Danson, I have this organization, I have 500,000 people on it, and this is what they want. I want the government to do this. So I think the government right now should be listening from us because we know ourselves. If right now I was asked you to say, Latif, how do you know the Kenyans? How do they live in Baltimore? Or how do they live in San Francisco? You'll be like, Danson, I don't know. I don't know the issues. But for me, I know. So you can imagine, you as Latif, you're coming to Baltimore in Maryland to sort out Kenyan issues, yet you don't know about how we live. So it should be actually the other way, that me as Danson, who know the issues in Baltimore or issues in any country, I'll come to Latif and say, Latif, I've come from this region, these are the issues and these are the solutions. One thing I love about the diaspora, we don't come with problems alone. We come with solutions to the problems. We tell you this is how it's supposed to be done. And it's just for you to say, okay, let me look at it and it is done. So that is how the government should engage us. And we are quite very sure the conversation has started. The introduction of the State Department has really excited the diaspora. And in the next electioneering cycle, we will not have 10,000 voters, but Latif, we are going into we are going to be the swing county in court.
Yes.
Should there be, just final question, Danson, should there be a specific committee of the National Assembly or the Senate that deals with diaspora issues? We still have the Defense and Foreign Relations Committee.
Yes, I think we have now a committee in the House. I think I'm waiting for the leadership. We have the Committee on Diaspora and Immigrant Workers Committee already set up, and we are hoping we're going to engage them because also in the diaspora we have those people who want to be in the economics only. We have those who are concerned with governance. We have those who are concerned with maybe welfare, social welfare. So we just want to bring them together under the same committee and push our agenda. We are not waiting for them to do things for us. Right now, it's the flip. We are coming. That's why I can find time to come to the show and share with you all this information because it's worthy.
Thank you. Danson Mukile is in Washington, D.C., one of the Kenyans working and living abroad. He's an IT expert and policy analyst. And in the studio here with us is Victoria Nkatha. She's a business development executive, lives and works in Denmark as a diaspora youth leader. Thank you very much for joining us, Victoria.
Thank you so much for having us.
Look forward to hosting you again soon.
Yes.